Right. It's the aforementioned evening stream. Um, I yeah, I'm looking forward to this trial. I'm especially looking forward to it as the current title of the stream suggests, seeing who is the prosecutor. Are they gonna do the normal Ace Attorney thing of, oh, it's case two, time for the new prosecutor, or are we gonna continue the the unusual pacing of Great Ace Attorney 1 and like just have it be Baroque again? Because we kind of need to introduce Baroque again anyway. And I don't know. Who will it be? I feel like most times as a new prosecutor, they have a lead up to it, right? Like they have like a scene beforehand where you talk to someone and they're like, "Oh, do you know who the prosecutor is?" "Oh yeah, you're fucked. It's this guy." Or whatever, right? Um, but yeah, so it's probably going to be Baroque Van Zykes, but we shall see if maybe Mr. Takumi has thrown in a curveball and pulled out the new prosecutor out of nowhere. I feel like that would be also appropriate too, because at least I felt like something different between these games and the original trilogy. Because Naruhodo is just like a visitor, he's not clued up on what's going on, right? Whereas Phoenix Wright was like, he knew the right people to ask and like, you know. Whereas Naruhodo is sort of worming his way through it, I guess. Trial Part 1. Alright then. The Old Bailey. This place always makes me feel strange. I seem to get chills down my spine and break out in a nervous sweat all at the same time. Well, I didn't think I'd be back here so soon. That's my line. That's not the right voice. That's my line. Good morning. Ah, good morning, Mr. Natsume. It was only 2 days ago when I was declared not guilty here. Yes, we somehow managed to prove that he didn't stab Miss Green in the back. And now this. Another morning, another murder, and here I am again in this hellhole. Can't keep coming to court. I'm beginning to think he's right. It really does seem as though he's cursed. Mr. Naruhodo, I'm afraid I have bad news. Oh. Mr. Natsume, good morning. Yes, morning. So, here we are again. Yes, again. Judicial Assistant, Miss Mikotoba Esquires. What's the bad news? Oh dear, you heard, did you? If you come in shouting at the top of your voice, people can't help hearing what you say. Oh, I'm sorry. You've done nothing wrong, Mr. Sato. Now, what is it? Well, it seems that the prosecution in today's trial will be led by Lord Baroque Van Zykes. Van Zykes. Go! Oh no! Oh no, no! My Nipponese friend. Oh. His voice is probably my favourite in this whole game. Just because, I mean, it's Baroque Van Zykes, you can't go wrong. The so-called Reaper of the Bailey, the most legendary prosecutor in the land. Sure. In the trial 2 days ago, he pursued Soseki-san and I relentlessly. Oh, Soseki-san and I relentlessly. Of course, by the skin of our teeth, we managed to pull through, but still. Perhaps Mr. Natsume's acquittal in the last trial wasn't the end of the matter. After all... Yes, I know what you're thinking. The legend of the Reaper that says nothing can save a person in a dock when Lord Van Zykes is the prosecutor. Oh no! That even if a person is found not guilty, the accused will meet a mysterious end one way or another. And we've experienced it firsthand. A man we successfully defended met the most terrifying end after his acquittal, right here in the Old Bailey. This is presenting him as a bit, like, suspicious, Barrett runs out. Oh, do I have to put up with those ice-cold eyes boring into my soul again? Cursed by evil spirits and now by the Reaper. Petrifying perils, potentially. Well, if it's potentially, at least you appear to have hope, Mr. Natsume. Locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Ah, yes. I'm innocent. You have to believe me. I'm you more than anyone now. Don't worry. I'll be your steadfast ally every step of the way in this battle. I promise. And this promises to be a hard battle, I fear. I'm yet to see how this might even relate to the overall plot of the game. Well, the trial is scheduled to begin shortly. We should move into the courtroom. Maybe there's going to be like forged evidence, or like the victim is like accusing Mr. Natsume on like intention. It's like a collusion or something. Let's go. Oh yes, I forgot to say. I'm afraid you won't be able to make it. Mr. Sholmes, I mean. That's probably for the best. Oh. If you were here, I might be tempted to rely on his help. And that could be seen as a weakness. If Lord Van Zykes were to notice, he'd prey on it mercilessly. At least, that's my gut feeling. Mr. Naruhodo? You're right. Yes, you're so right. Oh, well said, locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Well said. I swear on this sword at my side, and on the spirit of Kazuma that it harbours. I'll show him what a Japanese lawyer can do. I'll set you free with honor. Oh yes! Santa Judge, then, oh man, 6 juror voices. Insane, that's gonna be insane. Okay, there's 1 or 2 new ones.
In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. I now call upon the counsel for the prosecution and the defense to declare their willingness to proceed.
The prosecution is ready. The defense is ready, my lord. Readiness for the trial, my learned Nepenthes friend, is not what the defense needs. What you need is readiness for your inevitable defeat. It's not just in my imagination, it's really there. Lord Van Zykes has such an animosity towards us Japanese for some reason. It was some time ago now that he first became known as the Reaper of the Bailey, I believe. These past few years, he hasn't appeared in court at all. Yet now he's back in the courtroom, though for some reason, only when I'm defending. This Reaper, with his curious disdain for us Japanese, is a prosecutor shrouded in mystery. Still, this isn't the time to be pondering that. I have to concentrate on Soseki-san's trial.
Furthermore, I now call upon the 6 ladies and gentlemen of the jury. You have been chosen at random to represent the will of the people in this trial. Are you ready to fulfill your duty? Absolutely. I had a feeling this larrikin wasn't innocent before.
I must say that I feel especially ruthless on days when my hat refuses to sit tight.
Oh, well, I rather like how you're wearing your hat. I think the ruthless look is rather very fetching, actually.
Oh, I need to be somewhere at 10 o'clock. I have a very important meeting. Let's make this quick.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I need to take home 5 bob tonight, or the missus will go through the roof. Oh, may the Lord show us all the light here, and lead his flock into a righteous verdict.
The British jury system is so very different to our own, isn't it? It's quite extraordinary to think that the power of judgment is in the hands of 6 members of the public, and that the judge can only pass sentence when all jurors are in agreement about the defendant's guilt.
6 citizens of London, chosen at random, or at least that's the idea. The prosecution would draw attention to the fact that the accused was on trial here but 2 days ago. Accordingly, where possible, the same jurors have been asked to return for duty today. Which jurors didn't return? Mrs. Garrett, because obviously not.
Very well, let us commence the trial. Lord Van Dyke, your opening statement, please.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it is not the intent of the prosecution to cast doubt over your past decision. However, the innocent verdict afforded to this eccentric Nipponese before has had dire consequences. Did the accused repent for his wrongdoing in that affair? Far from it. Instead, he used his freedom to perpetrate a most blood-curdling crime, namely that of the attempted murder of his neighbouring lodger, an innocent Englishman. To explain the circumstances of the crime, the prosecution calls its first witness to the stand. The detective responsible for investigating the scene, and the accused himself. Witnesses, your names and occupations, please.
Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard's Homicide Division.
Oh, so they cannot sue me from the Empire of Japan. My government ordered me to come here as a student to study your language and culture.
Mr. Natsume,
Yes, my lord, sir.
I'm quite sure I'm not mistaken that you swore an oath never to set foot in my courtroom again. I remember it as if it were yesterday.
The day before, in fact, my lord, but close enough.
Oh, believe me, this is the last place I want to be.
Inspector, let's hear from you first. Explain the case for the court.
Right you are, sir. The incident occurred at the Gavin household where the defendant has lodgings. In the ground floor room of the victim, Mr. William Shamspeare. The defendant has already admitted to visiting the victim on the night in question. Mr. Shamspeare collapsed in his room as a result of poisoning by a strychnine. He was found the following morning when the landlord, suspecting something was wrong, broke down the door. This means, I presume, that the door to the victim's room was locked at the time of the incident.
Correct, my lord. It was locked from the inside, making entry to or exit from the room impossible.
Although the victim, Mr. Shamspeare, lives to tell tale. He very nearly did. The man was halfway to heaven when we first found him. I was the first officer on the scene, my lord, and I have a photographic printer here that I took at the time to show how it looked.
True enough. Can't see the broken half of the soap. This looks like it's dripping or something. The gas thing is still locked. His clothes are the same, the mug is the same. You can't see the mug in his hand, you can see the fork. Okay. Nope.
Yes, a chilling scene. No, centre. Well, order. Yes, a chilling scene indeed. The man looks very much deceased. That's right. Everyone present believed that's exactly what he was. Very well, I shall accept this photographic print as evidence for the court. Now then, Mr. Natsume.
Oh, yes.
As the defendant, do you have anything to say at this juncture?
They're haunted. Haunted by evil spirits.
Good gracious, what's haunted?
My lodgings. There's been a whole series of strange happenings in my lodgings. The tenant before me died in mysterious circumstances. A woman was stabbed by no one on the street outside. My neighbour was poisoned. And me? What about me? I've nearly been killed countless times.
Killed, Mr. Natsume? How?
Even on that fateful night it happened, when I returned from Mr. Shamspeare's room. I lit my gas stove and climbed into bed, but before long, the stove went out and somebody tried to kill me.
You must always extinguish all fires before retiring for the night, Mr. Natsume.
It's so cold, my runny nose would freeze. The point is, I didn't poison my neighbour. Oh, why am I being accused of this? Why is my existence so cursed?
Thank you, witnesses. I believe I have a reasonably clear picture of events.
If I could raise one more point, my lord. One more conclusive point.
Conclusive? Go on.
Fortunately, the victim, Mr. Shamspeare, has regained consciousness after his ordeal, and he has named the true culprit. The poison consumed by the victim was administered in a cup of tea that he drank on the night in question. Tea, my lord, that was brought to the victim's room by the accused.
The accused? Good grief! Order!
Yes, that's the crux of this whole case. If Soseki-san is innocent, then why? Why has the victim accused him? Okay, speaking of this, obviously there's been times in Ace Attorney where a victim has been able to speak. For various reasons. Usually, well, historically, there have been 3 different reasons. 1, they didn't know who the killer was themselves. 2, they wanted to accuse somebody else, intentionally. Oh wait, no, there's only those 2 reasons. But yeah, usually it's one of those 2. Either they don't know who killed them themselves, or they intentionally wanted to accuse somebody, specifically. And in Gregory Edgeworth's case, a bit of both.
Well, Mr. Natsume, what have you to say to this accusation?
That evening, yes, I did take some freshly brewed tea with me when I visited Mr. Shamspeare's room as a gift. The public water pump outside always freezes at night, so I bought bottled water especially to make it. And this is the result. Never will I touch tea again. Never. The public pump was frozen, you say? That's not information we've heard before.
That will do, thank you. Now, according to our laws, the defence must have the opportunity to cross-examine witnesses at least once. Therefore, I call upon these witnesses now for a formal testimony. I presume the prosecution has no objection.
None whatsoever, my lord.
Good. Now you will give your account of the events on the night in question to the court now.
Yes, my lord. It was around 9 o'clock that evening when I visited my neighbour, and I took some tea with me as a gift. We had a heated literary debate over a nice hot drink, after which I went back to my room at around 11.
Why is one of the mugs got a tea ring on it and the other hasn't?
Oh, my tea was completely harmless. He couldn't have locked the door behind me otherwise, could he?
Strychnine takes some time to have an effect on the body. People don't kill over immediately after taking it. The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guest left. The argument still stands. Yes, I see. It all seems relatively straightforward.
Excuse me, but that testimony does raise one rather crucial point, I think.
We're going to try and say that Shakespeare didn't drink his tea until later, and in between there, somebody had the opportunity to add the poison to it.
Mr. Natsume claims his tea to have been harmless. Presumably, though, the teacups have been examined for traces of the poison, haven't they? Why didn't I think of that?
Well, as it happens, no. We haven't been able to. Did I hear you correctly, Inspector? Scotland Yard has failed to examine the suspect's substance.
How could you overlook something so important? Isn't that the first thing you should have done?
My learned Nipponese friend is falsely incensed. The inspector said Scotland Yard was unable to examine the tea, not that it was overlooked.
Unable? Why?
It's simple enough. There was none left, not a drop. Someone must have been very thirsty indeed.
False. With current scientific techniques, it's not possible to test for poison under such circumstances.
Well, it need only a drop, but that one drop does actually have to exist, funnily enough.
The lack of examination notwithstanding, it appears nothing other than the tea passed the victim's lips on the night in question.
I see, thank you. The matter is clear.
Cast your eyes over the jury, my learned friend. What? You can see it in their faces, I'm sure, the recognition of the accused's guilt. Your client's fate is all but sealed. In mere moments from now, you will lose, and your compatriot will be damned for all eternity.
He's right. I can feel all 6 of the jurors looking daggers at me. I can't let them beat me down. I won't.
I wonder if we're going to do the same thing as... Well, I think there's a problem with this testimony.
Counsel for the defence, proceed with your cross-examination.
Yes, my lord. It was around 9 o'clock that evening when I visited my neighbour, and I took some tea with me as a gift.
Hold it!
Hold it! Were you and your neighbour good friends then? Oh, no, we weren't friends. Not at all, not at all. Never, ever. A simple no would have sufficed. Then, why did you decide to pay him a visit? Mr. Shamspeare fancies himself as having great literary knowledge. As a fellow scholar of English literature, we find much to talk about together.
Come now, no Nipponese could understand the finer points of English literature.
And on the night in question, that was the topic of conversation as well, I presume. It was the day of my last trial, when I was acquitted. I'd just arrived back at my lodgings, when I ran into Mr. Shamspeare outside on the street. That was around 6 o'clock. We exchanged one or two pleasantries, but it soon turned into a heated discussion. Why was Mr. Shamspeare leaving the building? He was on his way out at the time, though. So I promised to visit him in his room that evening at 9 to continue our debate. But did I have any ill intentions? No, not one, not two, not any. Not at all. Never, ever. A simple no would have sufficed, I feel.
Then tell the court what did happen when you visited the victim's room.
Hold it! A literary debate about Shakespeare's works, I think you said, didn't you?
Shakespeare, a very worthy topic of conversation, I must say.
Oh, yes, my lord. Romeo and Juliet, who was stronger? It was a profoundly pleasurable parley.
Romeo and Juliet?
Who was stronger? I know I'm going to regret asking this, but how did the debate go? Well, we both agreed we would reach the conclusion more quickly with a reenactment. So we battled it out, in the Greco-Roman style, naturally. What? Mr. Shamspeare had all sorts of costumes in his room for such a contest. So when you say a reenactment, you mean you were actually in costume? He is Romeo, I is Juliet, and after a vigorous wild tussle, I, as Juliet, came out on top, a victory I'll cherish forever.
I dare not imagine the terrible scene of carnage.
The fact remains that it was you who prepared the tea and took it to the victim, correct? I boiled the water in my room and made a pot to take with me. I'd heard that he was too poor to have tea himself, you see. Perhaps another way that the poison got in there is somebody put it in his pot ahead of time. Maybe the same person who apparently goes in his room at night, who may or may not exist. It's true, there was no sign of any tea leaves in the man's room. I wanted to do something nice, to be friendly. I think there probably is somebody who goes in the room, right? I feel like that's a logical way forward. To explain his weird nightmares. I wanted to do something nice, to be friendly. So why is everybody looking at me with such suspicion? My tea was harmless, of course it was.
And do you have any basis for that statement, witness?
Oh, my tea was completely harmless. He couldn't have locked the door behind me otherwise, could he? Hold it! Hold it! Yes, there was not a drop of tea left in the victim's room anywhere, was there?
That's correct. Anyone would think the fellow had never had a pot of tea before. I must have licked it dry. Which is a pity, because one drop is all we would have needed to analyse it for poison.
And you say that you returned home to your room at 11 o'clock, Mr. Natsume? 2 hours, okay. Yes, definitely. By heaven and earth, I swear it.
The landlord was able to verify that, as it happens. He confirmed that the defendant went back to his room at 11 that night. And how was the landlord able to attest to this? He, said it was the lamps, I believe. The lamps, Inspector?
When tenants return to their rooms and start using gas, the lamps in other parts of the house flicker. Yes, Mr. Garrett seems to pay a lot of attention to the comings and goings of his tenants. There's only one key to Mr. Shamsby's room. I know that for certain. So he must have locked the door himself from inside that room.
The victim has confirmed that to be the case, yes.
So I'm right, my tea was harmless, completely harmless. If you take poison, you die. Everyone knows that.
It's not that simple, I'm afraid.
What do you mean?
Strike 9.
Oh, it's like Strike 9. Is Strike 9 a real thing? So I'll look up Strike 9. Is it a real poison? And then Strike 9 spelled like that. Strike 9. Was it Strike 9?
Strike 9. Strike 9.
Oh, strike. Okay, let's figure out. Strike 9 or Strike 9. Strike 9 or Strike 9 or Strike 9. 9. Strike 9. Strike 9. Strike 9. Strike 9. Okay, so Danganronpa took the piss out of Strike 9 by making Strike -9 or whatever it was. Okay. Listen, I never knew that.
Hold it!
Hold it! How long does it take for symptoms to appear then?
According to the coroner I was speaking to at the yard, about 30 minutes after the poison's consumed. Then the victim suffers violent convulsions, cramping and stiffness, and eventually dies from asphyxiation.
So there's a 30-minute interval between when the poison is ingested and the onset of symptoms. There seem to be a lot of different types of poison in the world, that's for sure. Oh dear, death by poisoning again. It's always so awful. 30 minutes is a long time. Certainly long enough for the victim to have locked the door behind the accused after he left. Can't deny that, and it further degrades Soseki-san's alibi.
I have the medical report from the doctor who examined the victim here, my lord. It spells it out, really. The accused is the only person who could have done it. Very well, the court will add this report. I add this report to the court record as evidence.
Oh yes, I see it here. Delayed onset of symptoms. Why did the fucking orange thing disappear? So we're gonna need to find a sample. We're gonna need to discuss the rims of the tea. We're gonna need to discuss the stoat and the weird intruder and the fact that there's the bricks missing in the window.
This sort of thing has been wrong many times. Accessory on the victim's pocket watch that appears to have broken when the man collapsed. Yeah, those sorts of things are faked all the time. So it's very likely that, or not very likely, but it's highly possible the victim played a part in setting up the scene himself. He is an actor after all. Great.
The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guest left. The argument still stands.
That's the extent of their testimony, is it? If I could voice a personal opinion, Mr. Naruhodo.
Of course, go ahead.
If Mr. Natsume is arguing for his innocence so adamantly and so persistently, yet Inspector Gregson just brushes what he says aside, it's really quite infuriating.
I agree. So we need to find an inconsistency in what the inspector is saying, I think.
I'm afraid so. As things stand, the jurors are sure to find Mr. Natsume guilty.
As I see it, what we need to focus on is the poison and the tea. Let's listen carefully to this testimony again.
Yes. Hold it!
The argument still stands, you say?
This is what Mr. Natsume has been saying, isn't it? The pair of them drank tea together that night, so if there was poison in it... The victim wouldn't have been able to lock the door after the accused left later on.
Exactly. Me and my tea are innocent. Sweet and innocent, I'll tell you.
I'm afraid, sir, that doesn't follow. You see, strychnine is a slow-acting poison. In other words, it takes time for symptoms to appear. So, you could have left the room up to 30 minutes after the victim drank the tea. And as long as you did that, Mr. Shamspeare could have locked the door after you'd gone.
But no. We drank the tea straight away. The battle over whether Romeo or Juliet was stronger, that came after the tea. False. Do you have any evidence to support that statement? In my great homeland, the Empire of Japan, we have a saying. Drink tea while it's hot. Sure, a proverb will satisfy the prosecution.
I'm afraid there's no conclusive proof to support the defendant's assertion. On the contrary, there are sufficient grounds to infer his guilt in the matter.
No.
That's the extent of that testimony, is it? If I could voice a personal opinion, Mr. Naruhodo.
Of course, go ahead. I've already read this.
We have to find the problem in what the inspector is saying. Let's do it. Let's do it.
True.
As I see it, what we need to focus on is the poison and the tea. The tea. He's hinting at the teacups. We have no evidence regarding the poison. We do have evidence regarding the teacups. The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guest left. Is there anything that might suggest that that isn't the case? Maybe the fact that it was 1:30 AM? And no poison, no containment for the poison? That wouldn't... Okay, no. I need a quick break.
Oh. I was thinking, and two things that came to mind, or one in particular, was when did Mr. Natsume leave? After which I went back to my room at around 11.
Hold it! Hold it!
Okay. The poison and the tea. This statement is true. This statement is true. Both of his statements are true, and yet apparently one is flawed. I think the issue is this, right? Natsume clearly says 11. This clearly says 130. I mean, I found a problem, but it just doesn't fit. I almost want to present it here. But Susato did say we have to find it. Let me read Susato's hint again. So we need to find an inconsistency in what the inspector is saying, I think. I'm afraid so, as things stand. Yeah. The poison and the tea. Okay, what I'm going to do is read through each piece of evidence. The teacup was used by Mr. Shamspit and Mr. Natsume. There is no tea ring on the inside of Mr. Natsume's cup. If anything, this corroborates what Gregson's saying in this statement. That isn't inconsistent. Okay. Here's my idea. The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guest left. The argument still stands. The problem here isn't the first sentence. The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guest left. True. But the second statement, the argument still stands, is false because there's another problem as listed here. 1:30 AM, 11 PM. There's the problem. I'm not confident in this one. Just because I feel like it is a bit of a stretch. Because this statement is talking about leaving. I guess it is talking about leaving, and that's what I want to bring up. Him leaving, time of death. Right? That's what I want to try and say. It's the best I've got.
Objection!
Yes! Objection! The argument still stands, you say? I think not, Inspector.
Come again?
I think you'll find that you've overlooked a very significant chronological inconsistency here. Yes, indeed. Dun 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 dun. Main menu theme. Prelude to the objection.
A chrono what? What are you on about?
According to this report, the victim must have consumed the poison at around 1:30 in the morning. And yet, the defendant, Mr. Natsume, left the victim's room at 11.
Oh!
Yes, that's right. There's more than 2 hours of missing time there. And then Barak van Zijk says, objection! Look at the mugs. You can clearly see the T-ring on Mr. Shamspear's mug. This clearly indicates he didn't drink the poison initially. In fact, the victim drank the poison after the defendant left the room. In other words, if there were poison in the tea that Mr. Natsume brought to the victim's room, how could the victim have fallen ill to it 2.5 hours, full hours after the defendant left? Yeah, there's no problem here. Van Zijk is going to have something to say. Next line is going to be objection. Oh.
Whoa!
Yeah, they do both do the same thing.
The defence's argument is entirely reasonable. How do you respond, Lord Van Zykes?
The problem is when the victim drank the tea. Watch me drink my wine in this hallowed chamber. Ah, lovely smell. Pray forgive the discourtesy if my mind has wandered. I was considering what cuisine would best complement the contents of my hallowed chalice this luncheon. How could it have happened, you ask? I do hate to shatter illusions, but my Nipponese friend appears to be chasing a phantom, I dare. A phantom? Is it so hard to imagine that the victim drank his tea after the accused had left? For example, at the time stated in the medical report. Yes, at around 1:30.
Objection!
Objection! Bush. Mr. Natsume brought the tea with him to drink together with his neighbour. And in Japan, there is a well-known saying, drink tea while it's hot.
Objection!
Objection! And in my country, there is an even more apt saying. There is nothing more refreshing than cold tea. The point is, if there was such a long gap, there may be other ways to explain how the victim came to be poisoned. Other possibilities.
What sort of possibilities, Counsel?
Well, for example, the man could have had another visitor. Another visitor? That's a very bold assertion, my learned friend, from someone who has nothing to substantiate it. Or the victim could have taken the poison of his own volition.
You suggest this may have been a suicide, Counsel?
Objection. Mr. Shamspeare has categorically denied suicide. The idea can and must be discounted. Objection. But he could be lying.
Is something wrong, Lord Van Dyke?
I was listening to the sound of the carriage pulling up outside the courtroom. It's my next witness, Mr. Shamspeare. Pray, forgive the discourtesy. Carriage? What carriage? It would seem that the key player in this case has just arrived.
He turns around.
Out, brief candle, life's but a walking shadow. A poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Yes,
Who, sir, are you?
William Shamspeare, my lord. Alas, 'twas I undone by these bitter events. I am the victim. But what's he doing here?
I've got to give it to Takumi, right? In all of these games, Ace Attorney 1, Ace Attorney 2, Ace Attorney 3, Apollo Justice, the two Edgeworth spin-offs which aren't Takumi. Professor Layton vs Phoenix Wright. Well, actually, I'm not so sure about that one. I don't remember it very well. I haven't played it. I've only watched it. Then, obviously, then not in the Yamazaki's two recent games. Never have we called the victim having survived an assassination attempt or murder, attempted murder. We have never brought them to the stand. Because there just hasn't been that many. I mean, we've had a few ghosts, but...
The prosecution moves to call this gentleman to the stand. With his testimony, my learned friend's futile resistance will be utterly crushed. You're calling him a witness?
Very well, Counsel. I grant your request with interest. I'm curious to discover what the court shall hear from the victim himself.
Oh, my fine fellows, happy am I, Shamspeare, to regale thee with my tale of woe, my lord. But, I still have my own tale to tell, my own tale of worse woe. I can regale the court with the tale of my perfect innocence, in perfect English.
That will do, Miss Natsume. Let the court hear now from the victim.
Oh, yes. All right, so that's Mr. Shamspeare. But who's that other man beside him? Yes, I feel sure that we've caught a glimpse of that man before. State your names and occupations for the court, please, witnesses. A writer of words so sweet they do scent the breeze, an inventor of ideas so profound they compose the earth. The unrivaled poet, the unmatched scribe, William Shakespeare. With a great bard to be recalled to life anew, lo, what a magnificent man! Good fellows, I'm he who ponders such a miracle, William Shakespeare.
Meter Man. The Gas Man. Interesting. Adron B. Meter Man. Adron. A Dronby Meter Man. Is Dronby a word? Dun 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 dun. Excuse me. That's not very nice of me. What was the word I was looking for? Dronby. Drobny. It's close. Oh my lord. It's just a name. Okay. I don't know. Adron B. Meter Man.
Oh, the name's Meter Man. Adron B. Meter Man.
That's alright, I'll do that.
I work for the Altamont Gas Company, East End branch office.
Ah, I remember now. It was yesterday on Briar Road.
Oh yes, she's right, it's him. Give him like a wide voice. Oh, what's this? What's that man doing over there?
I'm looking through this window here.
He looks like he's trying to see into Soseki-san's lodgings.
Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo?
Excuse me, could we have a word?
Bye-bye. I'm off. Right.
Yes, we spotted him outside Mr. Garadip's house that morning. He's a gas company employee? What does he have to do with this case?
So, Mr. William Shakespeare, you are the victim in this miserable affair, correct?
Oh heaven, oh hell, do you command me to remember that sweet poison that didst cross me and cross mine innocent lips?
I subpoenaed him for the trial, with his doctor's permission, naturally. Hearing the testimony of the aggrieved will remove any doubt, or any room for doubt from the jurors' minds, I'm sure.
Behold, you have only to rearrange the letters of my name to see that me's a seraph.
He's a Sarah. That is a very crazy coincidence.
An angel indeed. Thus be noble of mind, O sweet nature, and verily honest of heart, as all heavenly angels be. Because there isn't a less contrived meaning in your name. No, not at all. The jurors seem to be very moved by this man, I'm afraid. They're actually taking the serif anagram idea seriously.
Thank you, witnesses, for your illuminating introductions.
But my lord, what's the man next to Mr. Shamspeare doing here? The gas man, I mean.
What, mate? Well, now.
Allow me to enlighten my learned friend. As you recall, I presume, your earlier impertinence. When you suggested that the victim had another visitor to his room on the night in question. And moreover, that the victim is a compulsive liar. What? No, I didn't quite say that. This young chin-stroker is here to controvert your wild claims, conclusively. Is that not so, Mr. Meterman?
Hang on. No, I'm just here. I hereby call you for your formal testimonies. You will tell the court as lucidly as possible what happened on the night in question.
One may smile and be a villain. Yes, it doth pain me, but let the truth be spoken. The truth of that wintry night of my discontent. Ah, the wintry night of my discontent. The snow lay about, my neighbour did cometh in the evening, bearing a gift of tea. But marry, bitter was his drink, and when he left, I did fall prostrate on my table. 'Twas the tea alone that did pass my lips at that late hour, naught else.
I was alone outside this bloke's window in the freezing cold all night, keeping an eye on his room. No one else visited his room but that short little brown-backed Eastern fella.
Wait, what did you say? You were keeping an eye on Mr. Shamspeare's room all night?
That's right. Of course, the bloke's window's all but blocked up, isn't it? But there's a little gap in the bricks where you can see into the room. So I spent the night trying to keep my teeth from chattering as I peered in through that. The question is, why? Well now, that's because he's on my list.
What a piece of work to man! Wherefore wouldst thou not stare in wonderment? Wherefore means why, right? So why wouldn't you stare in wonderment? There you go. What are you talking about? This buzzing busybody hath not part in this play. I pray thee, pay him no heed, make no more ado about his tedious words.
What do you say about me?
Calm yourself. This court is concerned with what happened on the night in question. Nothing more.
Indeed, that is so.
And as the testimony we have just heard clearly reveals, there was no one other than the accused present at the time who could have carried out this crime.
Well, I believe this may be the final testimony of the trial. Now, counsel, the defence may proceed with the cross-examination.
Yes, my lord. I think I'll do this testimony and then call it a night. Maybe. Depending.
found the problem. Which order did it happen? According to this guy, he drank, and then when he left, I did fall prostrate on my table. Which contradicts the fact that his tea mug had a ring when Mr. Natsume's didn't. We're going to press him on this. He's going to say, I drank at the same time as Mr. Natsume.
Hold it!
Hold it! To be clear, by neighbour, you are referring to the defendant, Mr. Natsume.
Oh, indeed, sire. Perchance thou Perchance thou wouldst that I call him the man from upstairs.
And at what time did the mustachioed Nipponese visit you in your room?
Our meeting was promised for the hour of 9, and lo, did he come to tender a gift of fragrant tea.
Details which are in accordance with the defendant's own testimony, yes.
And we were broiled in such a literary debate as history hath not seen before.
By which I presume he means
Their discussion about who was the stronger, Romeo or Juliet. I, Shakespeare, did play the part of the young Romeo, whilst my neighbour played that of the fair Juliet. Each of us dressed as would our characters be, to bring weight upon our merry experiment.
I dare not imagine the scene.
Verity, thy name is woman. Canst thou imagine how dismayed I was? Yes, I had heard the Eastern art of jujitsu, but ne'er did I dream 'twould be a skill practised by the comedy maiden.
Juliet beat Romeo up? This is not helping our case. I believe the court has heard enough of your earth-shattering literary debate. Perhaps you could reiterate your statement about the tea that the accused brought to your room.
My liege, I am thy servant. Gladly I would do thy bidding.
Hold it!
Hold it! So, you didn't have any kind of evening meal? Dinner? Supper?
Oh, fie on luxury, fie on gluttony. To eat thrice daily is but a waste of time.
Sorry?
I would that my belly were full, no more oft than the sun doth rise.
Well, most heroic eating habits, I must say.
Night and day do I fill my hours with the learned study of the great bard and playwright. Hence it is that there doth naught be in my chamber. Hence it is that there doth naught in my chamber be than the costumes of mine art.
That would appear to be the case, as even a rodent was found starved to death in your room.
Now that I think of it, it's not just food that was conspicuously missing from that room, is it? I don't recall seeing a single play or script anywhere. For I have devoured them all.
You've eaten them?
Every word be within my skull. Didst thou imagine otherwise?
Right. That wasn't misleading at all. Now, could you turn around, do you think? Which brings us to the conclusion that the only way the poison could have passed the victim's lips is in the tea.
Hold it!
But the windows of that house have all been filled in.
A historical artifact of the now defunct window tax.
Yeah, you're right there. All bricked up horribly. But as it happens, there's a little part of the brickwork at the bottom corner that's been opened up. I was looking in through that gap.
Yes, there were a few bricks loose, weren't there? And for some strange reason, a couple of bars of soap lined the ledge outside as well.
I don't like going round poking my chin in other people's business, especially on freezing cold nights. But them's my orders, so that's what I'll keep doing, as long as there's breath in my body.
What's with all the theatricals today? Out of interest, Mr. Meterman. After the accused had left and returned to his own lodgings, did you see the victim leave the room at all?
No, he never left. He was in that room the whole time, as far as I'm concerned.
And we can therefore discount the possibility of suicide. How can you be sure of that? The police carried out a thorough investigation of the scene and found no receptacle for poison. And since we know the victim didn't leave his room and hence didn't dispose of the poison's container himself, it's clear that this was no attempted suicide. Only the culprit could have removed the receptacle. Okay. One possible way to get a poison receptacle out of there if you were committing suicide would be... Okay. Natsume brings your tea. You put the poison in your tea while he's not looking. You then give him, discreetly, the container of the poison. He then leaves with the container of the poison. You lock him out. And there you go. You've got the poison out of there without leaving the room. But then it would have been found on Mr. Natsume or in his room. Only the culprit could have removed the receptacle.
Ah, yes, lucidly explained, Counsel. Thank you.
It really was. You can't argue with the logic.
Hold it!
Hold it! You say a short little round-backed eastern fella. So you can't be sure it was the defendant then?
Objection!
Objection! How many other short little round-backed Nipponese with a moustache do you think there are in London?
Well, of course, it's only an hour ago. It was quite dark, so I didn't notice a moustache.
What time did you get there, man?
He's going to be like, oh yeah, I got there at like 12. But he showed up at around 9, so I'm pretty sure of myself.
Okay. And when the person you saw arrived, did he and Mr. Shamspeare drink tea together?
Nah, sorry, I couldn't say.
Why not?
Because I couldn't see into the room all that well, could I? But what I did see was the silhouette of that little round-backed fella wearing a pretty dress. And the pair of them started some kind of wrestling match. I tell you, I didn't know what to make of it.
I suppose. That was the Romeo and Juliet championship battle getting underway. Mr. Meterman. Mr. Meterman. Allow me to confirm one final time. Apart from the accused, can you state with certainty that no one else visited the victim on the night in question?
No question. That's man's order.
So that's the entire testimony. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, I can't see any obvious holes in at all, to be honest. No, oh dear. If nobody else visited Mr. Shamspeare's room that night, apart from Mr. Natsume, I imagine the members of the jury will all conclude the same thing. Right, that he's guilty. Well, all we can do is press these witnesses for more information and hope for a breakthrough. Yes, Okay. So I think I was right then. You press this statement, and he then says that he drank with the defendant, and then you point out that his milk is different to the defendant's because of the tea ring.
Hold it!
Let me stop you there. Mr. Natsume left your room at 11 o'clock, but it wasn't until after 2... but it wasn't until after 2 that the poison made you collapse. That amounts to more than 3 hours of missing time.
What the hell?
The victim then proceeded to stand here in the courtroom and do this silly dance for the next 30 minutes before responding. And all of us, in complete awe of this nonsense, none of us dared to make some interjection while he did it. We just waited and waited until 30 minutes later. He didn't say anything, and Naruhodo finally decided to carry on what he was saying. If the defendant had really put the poison in your tea, that 3-hour window of time is something you're going to have to explain.
Gladly, 'tis an easy task.
What?
I did drink of the tea, not while my guest didst tarry, but after he took leave of me. Faith, 'twas stone cold, but at 1 hour post midnight, verily were my lips parched.
Objection!
Objection. That doesn't sound normal.
Nay, 'tis quite ordinary, sire. After all, thou wouldst recall our fiery debate. Amidst such argument, there'd be no time for fiery tea.
Romeo and Juliet again, and who was stronger? Mr. Shamspeare, in summary, allow me to confirm. Did you not come here with the intention of naming your attacker?
But of course, my liege, 'twas the stooped lover of words that did attempt to shuffle me off this mortal coil.
Ugh, we all know what that means.
Jurors.
Oh, my lord! Goodness me, yes, Mr. Foreman. I've kept my... Oh, no. Oh, I've kept my mouth shut and listened up until now, but this has gone on long enough. Are you all with me? Yes.
Are we to understand that you ladies and gentlemen of the jury are in agreement with one another? That you've reached on a unanimous decision?
Oh, too right we have. Oh, objection. Are you all with me? Yes.
Wait, no, the defense is in the middle of a cross-examination.
Oh. To be honest, I was holding out a bit of hope for you, young man. Especially after you'd identified those few hours that followed the accused leaving the victim's room. Oh.
Yes, the 3 missing hours, as you put it.
But in the end, what difference do they make? None, as far as I can see.
And since that's now apparent, there's really no reason to delay our decision any longer.
Like I was saying before, I don't take for Bob home with me tonight. The missus will blow her top. What's that? Sorry, I didn't quite catch what you said. Very well, let the court be apprised of your decisions. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury will state your leanings as to the defendant's culpability.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty! Guilty!
All of you?
Well, it would appear the jury is indeed unanimous.
So, this time at least, it seems justice will be done. All's well that ends well, as they say. This calls for a toast, I feel. To the guilty being punished. To the guilty being punished. Ugh! Ugh!
Get up, Mr. Naruhodo, please! The trial isn't over yet.
But what do you mean, Miss Susato?
What about the information I found in this encyclopedia of British law I have? That obscure right that belongs to the defense in these situations. Remember?
The summation examination. Yes, that's right. We don't have a jury in Japanese courts, of course. But here in the British Court of Law, if we can reverse the decisions of a majority of the jurors, we can force the trial to continue. This trial can't end now. Whatever it takes, I just can't let that happen. The defense moves to invoke its right to a summation examination, my lord. Another one of these fucking things. Oh my fucking god. The thought of Van Dykes just swearing his head off in court is kind of funny to me. I don't know why. Why am I not surprised at my learned Nipponese friend's inability to admit defeat? You choose to cling desperately to some archaic rule you barely comprehend, instead of accepting the truth.
Certainly no other defense counsellor in recent times has exercised the right to a summation examination.
Because they all know that once a jury's mind is set, it cannot be altered.
Nevertheless, the right remains and must be upheld. The defense counsel's request is granted. This court will proceed with the summation examination, as outlined in the Encyclopedia of British Law.
Thank you, my lord.
Are you and your fellows prepared, Mr. Foreman? Oh, believe me, my lord, we know all about this young lad's tenacity.
And we're ready for it.
Very well. In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I hereby call upon each of you to state the grounds upon which you find the defendant guilty of the crime for which he stands accused. Oh, the victim may not be well off, but he's a noble man and straight up. There's no reason to doubt the man.
Well, I do declare the good gentleman had no reason to lie. In fact, I think he's rather splendid.
Just look at the accused by comparison. He's Japanese, stopes all the while, and has a moustache. Very fishy.
There's no evidence to suggest the gangplank actor is a fraudsman. For now, at least.
Oh, I really don't care, like. I just need this trial to end quickly. Oh, 3 hours of missing time is nothing when you reach my age, you know. Nothing at all.
I knew it. Every single one of them seems completely convinced. It would seem that all the jurors have come to the conclusion that Mr. Shamspeare is a fine, upstanding, and honest citizen. If you ask me, they've all been bewitched by his strange theatrical movements. And sadly, nothing Mr. Natsume has said appears to have registered at all. Well, here goes. Let's not forget. I've pleaded with the jury on Soseki-san's behalf before, and it worked. So you never know. Omen theme.
dun, 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 dun.
Before we begin, it might be an idea for me to remind you exactly how a summation examination works, Mr. Naruhodo.
Oh,
Well, you're still very new to British law after all.
that's true, I suppose. And so Seki-san's fate is entirely in my hands now, too. There's always a chance that I might have forgotten some crucial detail. Perhaps I should hear Susato-san out. I wonder, should I let her talk me through it again, or not bother? No need, I'm better than that. Thank you for the kind offer, Miss Susato. But I've been through plenty of these summation examinations already now. I think it's important we don't delay the start any longer than necessary.
Of course, I understand, and I'm quite sure you're right.
Go save her. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun.
If you're confused by anything at any point, you can turn to me for advice whenever you like. I'll be here for you.
The key to this is really listening carefully to each juror's statement. Finding two that are contradictory and pitting the corresponding jurors against each other.
Without further ado, please, Counsel, proceed with the summation examination.
Yes, my lord. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. There weren't any that stuck out as being obvious, right? Because they all pretty much said the same thing.
The key to a summation examination is identifying contradictions between jurors' statements, Mr. Naruhodo.
Right, and once I've found two jurors whose statements can't coexist, I need to pit those jurors against each other. Then hopefully, when they see that what they're saying doesn't make sense, they'll change their leaning.
Yes, and if you're able to change the minds of the majority of the jurors, the trial will continue. But conversely, if you're unable to do that, the judge will declare the trial over and move to adjudication.
I can't let that happen. Somehow or other, I need to turn this trial around.
Hold it!
Hold it.
Well, there are plenty of people in London who seem noble but poor. Couldn't some of them also be liars?
Oh, I've no doubt about it. Like that shaky client of yours, for example.
Absolutely not. Mr. Natsume is no liar.
Look, the point is, the only thing that passed the victim's lips that night was the Japanese man's tea. And you take the gas man's testimony into account as well, the truth couldn't be any clearer.
Ah, well, that's alarmingly logical.
Oh, let me be frank here. I'm a gentleman with a gentleman's values. If it turns out that the old Shakespearean chum is a rotten liar after all, I'd gladly change my decision about the defendant. Oh, and I'm sure my fellow gentlemen on the jury would do the same. Isn't that right?
Well, yes, perhaps. Oh, I don't see it happening.
Aye, what's that? Elderly gent on the end there, you know. You'll have to speak up. Look, I really don't care about all this nonsense. I just need this trial to be over.
How many gentlemen do we actually have on the jury then?
All right, sir. I may hold you to that. Don't forget what you said.
Yeah. All right. If you can show me that the victim's a liar, I'll reconsider my position.
Hold it!
Hold it. Will you stand by that statement?
Oh, what do you take me for? I'm a gentleman, sir. A man of my word. So, let me be perfectly clear about this. Oh, if it turns out that the old Shakespearean chum is a rotten liar after all, I'll gladly change my decision about the defendant. And I'm sure my fellow gentlemen on the jury would do the same. Isn't that right?
Okay.
Hold it!
Hold it! Are you saying you believe the man to be trustworthy because he's rather splendid?
No, that's not what I said. The point is, the man is the victim here. What reason would he have to lie? And yes, he is rather splendid.
So you say, yet again.
Meanwhile, the man who stands accused behaves so suspiciously. It's exhausting to look at him. I'm afraid he's not splendid at all.
Splendid logic there, madam. Thank you so much. I love the bits of dialogue with the jurors. Oh, just look at the accused by comparison. Ace Chapman, Ace Stokes all the while and has a moustache. Very fishy.
Hold it!
Hold it. No, no, no. Not one of those things has a reason to find the man guilty. He is fishy. There's no point dancing around the fact. He's Japanese, has a moustache, and he stoops. You see, you arrive at the conclusion in just 3 steps. 3 steps, like a waltz, in fact. You know, the more I think about it, the more this trial seems like a dance. You seem to be several steps ahead of yourself, though, and you're on the wrong foot. No, there's nothing but circumstantial evidence here. There's no actual proof of the defendant's guilt. But the victim's version of events is backed up by what the big chin man next to him says, isn't it? 1, he saw the Japanese man there. 2, he saw no one else. And 3, he saw the Japanese man there. Oh, that's another 3 steps. Well, this really does seem more like a waltz, doesn't it? Right, and the prosecution will waltz its way to victory if I let you speak much more.
Hold it!
Hold it! A swordsman? What do you mean by that, madam?
No. It really is a most tiresome problem for the company. Most irritating. We can be absolutely certain that a customer is stealing from us, but without hard evidence, we can't even threaten to take action for fear of being sued.
I'm sorry, you've lost me a little there. Who are you? Who are you? Who Megalon?
I'm the wife of Augustus Altamont, the owner of Altamont Gas Company.
Ooh.
Good gracious. Altamont gas, you say?
Boom, gotcha. We're gonna say that the gas man was outside the building because the company wanted to prove that he was stealing gas, and yet the moment she says that that's why he was there, we can now say that he wasn't as nice as he seems. Or something. Emotional arguments.
Good gracious. Altamont gas, you say?
Yes, it's the future of energy in this country and around the globe, but proper handling is essential.
She's not wrong. It's now, along with wind power, one of the main things that the UK uses.
As I'm sure our employee from the East End branch office would be the first to agree.
Absolutely, Lady Quinby. Gotta be used properly. Altamont gas is the best in the world, of course.
Quinby? Isn't your name Quinby? Adrinby. Quinby, Adrinby. Altamont. I think we may have solved the mystery of the bow from earlier. The bow from earlier, Mr. Naruhodo. Right. He bowed in deference to his employer's wife, did he? So would I be right in assuming that the reason Mr. Meatman was watching what Mr. Shamspear was up to in his room?
I'm afraid there's no lengths. I'm afraid there's no end to the lengths of the population of the East End will go in order to steal our gas. So I really have no choice when the company identifies somebody as a possible fraudsman, but to dispatch a worker to watch the suspect day and night. We're very thorough in our investigations.
So you mean Mr. Shamspear is...
I wouldn't come out and say it in public, but you can finish the sentence with a grubby little gas thief.
You have noticed the public gallery in here, have you?
Oh, the eye of man hath not heard, the ear of man hath not seen.
Okay.
Faith, wouldst thou wound me with thy words, were I to let them penetrate the skin? But seraphs hear not insults, only choirs of angels in song. Oh, we may not have evidence yet, but my workers won't stop buzzing round you until they find it. Oh my God, I have a bee motif. Oh my God.
Quinby! Queenbee! Queenbee! A drone bee meter man. A drone bee! Oh my god. Altamont. God damn it. Wow, that pun took me way too long to notice.
Oh, I'm a bee, a busy bee. And when they do, you'll find yourself blasted back to your angelic heights in an Altamont gas explosion.
So Mr. Shamspear has been stealing gas. I wonder, Juror number 4, if you wouldn't mind adding that information to your statement.
My pleasure. It was the bit about ripping that thief apart you enjoyed.
A little before the part about abject violence, if it's not too much trouble.
Yes, of course.
This could be it. This could shift the balance.
The victim puts on a fine performance, but in reality, he's a common thief of my company's gas.
Hold it! That's a bold claim. How can you be so sure?
It's really very simple. Oh, noble lady of the gas, I pray thee, hold thy tongue. I beg your pardon. Hath that rank-odoured air that doth our darkness illuminate any place in this assembly? Nay, 'tis of sole import here that someone would extinguish the light of my own life.
Let me understand what the fuck you just said. Hath that rank-odoured air that doth our darkness illuminate any place in this assembly? Is the gas that illuminates the darkness, because it powers the lamps, any place in this trial? Nay, it is the only thing of importance here is that somebody would extinguish the light, that somebody would kill me.
Verily, I ne'er recall stealing thy gas, but pray let the matter rest until anon. Why, you little...
Begging your pardon, my lady, but I might suggest you don't say any more at this stage. We need hard evidence first. If I keep secretly watching this bloke, I'll get him in the end. He'll slip up.
Do you think maybe that secret's out of the bag?
Oh,
Oh, this is so frustrating.
Oh, I really don't care, like. I just need this trial to end quickly.
Well, it's these jurors who don't want to be on jury duty that usually have the most profound impact in the end. You keep talking about needing to take home some money. What's all that about, sir? I need to...
Oh, I need the money for the gas, otherwise we'll freeze to death. Finish, lass. That's what it's about.
Your girl's from Finland? What's that?
I'm talking about the derby at Hyde Park, aren't I? It was the Queen's Cup last week, wasn't it?
A derby?
It was a dead cert, that's the thing. I couldn't lose, so I took my wife's secret savings, like. But then, that hopeless old mare went and did the unthinkable. Oh, that stupid Finnish lass.
Oh dear, I think it's clear what happened, isn't it?
This is the day the missus uses her savings for a trip down the pub. So come on, let this business lie now. Just give it up.
No, that's not going to happen.
Hold it!
Hold it. What do you really mean by that, sir?
Well, no, I'm not one to boast, but I get up at 5 every morning, I do.
It's 5? You're really early riser then, aren't you?
What's that now?
I said, you're an early riser.
Oh, well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I like to while away the hours in the evening reading books as well. But by about 2 in the morning, I'm usually too tired to go on.
He sleeps at 2 in the morning and gets up at 5. Oh my, that means he only has 3 hours sleep each night.
What's that, dear?
Only 3 hours of sleep each night.
That's right, you say. 3 hours of missing time. Like I said, it's not much, is it?
This really isn't helping. Oh man, I'm glad I always press these guys. Alright then.
Hold it!
Dun 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 dun.
Objection!
Objection!
Those two statements clearly contradict each other.
Good gracious, to whose statements do you refer, counsel?
Juror number 1.
Oh, eh? What are you yelling out loud?
I presume you've heard juror number 4's statement, made by the wife of the owner of Altamont Gas.
Oh, well, yes.
The victim, who you claim to be a noble, straight-up man, in fact turns out to be a common thief.
Oh, so the good lady says, but there's no evidence, is there? You and I both heard them say as much.
Oh, it's true. We don't have any evidence. It's true. We don't have evidence as such, just yet. The claims aren't baseless, you know.
Oh, what?
Oh, you heard me. Seeing as his operation has already been compromised. I would suggest that the court hears testimony from our East End branch office employee over there.
I'll do whatever you say, my lady. The gasman's honour.
Juror number 1, you say you're a man of your word.
If I could show that Mr. Shamspeare was a liar, you assured me that you would reconsider your decision about the defendant's guilt.
Yes, I did say that. And as a man of honour, I'll hold to it, as I'm sure the other gentlemen of the jury will.
Me? Oh, well, yes. Now that we've found out that the man's a liar, perhaps we ought to consider the matter further.
Well, I'm perfectly honest, I haven't heard half of what you've all been saying. So if this made you recap a few points, that would soak me down to the ground. Oh, no, I'm not having any of this. I want a trial over and done with.
Oh, in that case, I shall change my leaning.
Oh, so, Mr. William Shamspeare, if that's your real name, we of the jury demand to know exactly what kind of a man you really are.
That's 4 jurors, 4 for not guilty. Yes, Mr. Naruhodo. Victory!
Order, order. Well, this is quite extraordinary, I must say. As a result of the defence's summation examination, the jury's leaning has changed. Now only 2 jurors say guilty, whilst 4 say not guilty. I therefore declare this court to be in a state of disaccord, and order the trial to continue.
These stupid jurors. Why would they never just do the common sense thing and just get it over with? You have spoilt the bouquet, Mr. Shamspeare. The ladies and gentlemen of the jury now find they are unable to trust you, the victim.
Oh, but you gods will give us some faults to make us men. So God amend me, so I do swear. This gasman speaketh that which concerns him most, naught but gas, naught but thin air. Ay, it burneth bright a while, but it hath no substance, and it doth reek foul.
Aye, what did you say? Do I take it, Mr. Shamspeare, that you deny the allegations of gas thievery?
Most heartily, my lord. Hast thou forgot? I am seraph and angel, noble of mind, sweet of nature, and verily honest of heart.
No, you flowery mind, pompous beanpole, just 'cause I haven't got the evidence yet.
Mr. Shamspeare, if, in fact, you are not noble of mind, sweet of nature, or honest of heart, if you are a liar, then your testimony should have no sway in this courtroom.
It is my considered opinion that at the present time no other possible culprit of this crime has been identified. All testimony heard by the court thus far heavily implicates the defendant. In short, it would not be unreasonable at this stage for me to rule on the case.
Oh no.
However, in light of the fact that the jury has expressed concern about the
Oh, I'm not doing the voice right.
Order! However, in light of the...
No. There. No.
Ho. However, in the light of the fact that the jury has expressed concern about the fidelity of this witness, I believe it would be inappropriate for this court not to pursue the point further.
Objection!
Objection! I assure you, my lord, that would be a waste of the court's time. The gas and this case are unrelated. Juror number 4.
Yes.
Didn't you say before that although you have no hard evidence to prove this man has been stealing gas, you have strong grounds for suspecting him?
Oh, that's right, we do. Don't we, worker?
Absolutely, Lady Queenbee. Gasman Zora. Order. Very well, then. We will hear your testimony now. You'll tell the court precisely why you believe the victim, Mr. William Shakespeare, has been stealing gas. Yes, my lord. It'll be my pleasure. On the ultimate gas name, I swear.
Oh, if I may, my lord.
Go ahead, madam.
This worker's testimony may have a significant bearing on the good name of my husband's company. Therefore, I should like to take the stand alongside him in a supervisory role, if you wouldn't mind.
Wow, yeah! Sweet as honey. Yeah. Very well, as an exception, I shall honour your request.
Thank you, my lord.
Don't wait until the boss gives you an earful. Oh, it's gonna sting, mark my words. So you will both testify to the court on the subject of the illegal consumption of the Altamont Gas Company's fuel.
Yes, is that clear, my good man?
Clear as Altamont gas, my lady, which is the clearest in the world.
You think the gas has gone to his head, Miss Susato?
I think the man is just a very dedicated employee, Mr. Naruhodo. A drone bee, if you may.
I'm proud to be the company's East End branch investigator and meter money collection agent. Altamont gas meters accept rummy bits, each coin giving customers about 2 hours of gorgeous gas.
Oh, and yet, the meter in Mr. Shamspeare's room didn't have a single coin in it. The meter doesn't appear to have been tampered with, though, and the collection agent has the only key.
Somehow, he's using all the flaming gas he wants without paying a penny. If that's not thieving, what is?
Aha! It's going to be brought up that he just didn't use gas because he can't afford it or something. But we have Mr. Garadub's word that he noticed when the victim got home. Pray forgive the discourtesy. The irrelevance of this testimony caused me to turn to my hallowed chalice.
What do you mean by that remark, Lord Van Zykes?
Did the mustachioed Nipponese poison the gangling excuse for an actor, or didn't he? That is all that should concern this court, and yet now we must listen to this abhorrence. Clearly what separates the vast British Empire and your Eastern Island nation is more than geographical distance. But this could turn out to be crucial testimony. The cross-examination must go ahead. Just smashing shit up. I love him. Do what you will.
Lord Van Zykes appears to be in a violent mood.
Yes, he does. An attempted poisoning and an incidence of gas theft with no supporting evidence. It's true that they would appear completely unrelated at first glance, but I wonder The truth tends to be buried in the most unusual places. And the first step in uncovering it will be to establish just who and what this man really is. Oh my god. Does he use the soap things to trick the gas meter? And then somehow not... I feel like that's half of an idea.
I'm proud to be the company. Branch investigator.
I certainly didn't expect to uncover another crime that looks like it's been taking place in the very same room. According to the testimony, it's only the meter in Mr. Shakespeare's room that's under suspicion. It does seem as though perhaps it has nothing to do with the incident involving Mr. Natsume. I know, it does seem that way. The fact is, since I've been practicing law in England, I feel like I've encountered this at least once already. Cases that are interlinked. Oh, it might seem that two cases have nothing to do with one another at first, but in fact they're intimately connected. Yes, we have experienced that before, haven't we? I wonder if this is another instance. Perhaps, but we can't be sure of that yet. If the Altamont Gas Company has been investigating Mr. Shakespeare so earnestly, there must be something to it. But then how has he been managing to steal their gas?
Hold it!
Hold it! So does that mean you enter people's houses in order to empty their gas meters?
Now, do. I have to try and catch people when they're in. Then I ask permission to come inside and do my business.
Does that mean you've been into Mr. Natsume's room before as well? As that of Mr. Shakespeare?
Well, now, interesting you should bring that up, because I believe our little, I couldn't believe how little money was in his meter.
Let's think, right? At this point in the trial, who does it seem like is going to be the killer? Could it be Meter Man? Could it be Queen Bee? Could it be the head of the gas company, Mr. Altamont? Question mark? Right, it's like, I don't know.
Well, interesting you should bring that up, because I couldn't believe how little money was in his meter. I mean, how the pair of them survived the winter is beyond me, it really is.
Knowing Mr. Natsume, he probably spent all his gas money on books. And then when he's finished reading them, he probably burns them for warmth.
You will kindly reiterate your statement about the gas meters themselves, Mr. Meter Man. Not much to say, really, but as you wish. Altamont gas meters accept threepenny bits, each coin giving customers about 2 hours of gorgeous gas.
Hold it!
Hold it! So all London houses that have a gas supply are fitted with these gas meters, are they?
They're the latest model. The height of technology developed by our company, Altamont Gas. And anyone who uses our gas will have one of these meters in their property, yes.
So if a 3p coin gives 2 hours of gas, most people will use about 3 coins in a night.
A bit more than that, usually, if they have both gas lights and gas stove, that is.
Thinking about it, Soseki-san doesn't have a fireplace in that room of his, does he?
Some people still choose to use candles, of course, and only have gas for heating.
Ah yes, I do remember seeing candles in Mr. Natsume's room, actually. And in Mr. Shakespeare's room. And how does the gas money in the meter get back to you at the gas company?
Every 3 days, gas men like me visit properties on the gas supply and empty the meters of coins.
I must say that the design and manufacture of the new meter cost the company an awful lot of money. But happily, it did put a stop to people not paying their dues for the most part.
Ah, because they have to pay in advance, you mean?
Yes, exactly right. And yet, the meter in Mr. Shamspeare's room didn't have a single coin in it.
Hold it!
Hold it. Out of interest, how long has this been going on?
Weeks and weeks. He's been pinching gas off us for ages. And you've examined the meter in Mr. Shamspeare's room, I take it?
Oh, naturally. We took it off the wall and went over it with a fine-tooth comb.
And found nothing suspicious at all, I presume.
No, I'm afraid we didn't. Which is exactly why I demanded a new type of meter to be produced. One with an indestructible lock, the Shamspeare Special.
That sounds like it would have cost an awful lot of threepenny pieces.
But even after all that, the rascal's meter was still empty.
I'll never forget the humiliation. When I opened up the money box and found it bare. You what, I said? You what? And look on his face. The smarmy smile of his. I pulled the meter straight out of the wall and took it back to the office. But you know what? Nothing. Not a trace of it being jammed open anywhere. Not a single sign. And you're suffering to my salary as a result. Down by 3 shillings a day, that's what.
A life-threatening situation in a number of ways. Incidentally, what became of the meter?
Nothing became of it. I've still got it.
Oh,
Ah, my fucking foot. Right there.
no wonder they call you Meter Man.
I think it would be prudent for the court to sequester this item while the trial is ongoing.
Speaking of locks, if only I was the lock-picking lawyer. Maybe then I could pick open this thing and figure out if it's really as strong as they say. A lockpick? Maybe, maybe not. That's a very sturdy looking padlock, isn't it? And the money box is sealed with beeswax too. So if Mr. Sholmes were to get up to any mischief, he'd be found out immediately. Mr. Naruhodo, mischief of that kind is not the sort of thing that Mr. Sholmes would... You know you didn't finish that sentence, don't you? Would... and then she realizes that he is. Right. Well, anyway, it's understandable that the gas company would want to safeguard the money that's rightfully theirs. It does feel a little over the top, perhaps, doesn't it? Oh, what? Have you spotted something, Mr. Naruhodo? Just here, there's a little hole. Do you see? Goodness, you're right. I wouldn't have noticed. It's not a very neat hole, is it? Not professionally made, I would say. I'd say. So you think it might have been opened up by Mr. Shamspear? Possibly. It seems that the people at Altamont Gas must have missed it. Well, it certainly seems to go all the way through to the inside. Yes, but there's no way a coin could fit through there. So you get some poke it up the hole to push the coin somewhere? Oh! I get it. You move something up the hole, and you hit the button that the coin hits. That's true, but even so, it seems more than a little suspicious. You use a little stick, and you hit the switch. Let's move on, shall we? Continue with your testimony, though I would say it has as much value as the contents of that meter. Oath! Oath! Oh, the meter doesn't appear to have been tampered with, though. In the collection key, agent has the only key.
Hold it!
There's only one key for all your meters? Well, in truth, there's another key in the company vault at our main office. But even if someone had somehow managed to get hold of the key, we would know if the coin box had been opened. Oh, how? I came up with a rather clever way to expose any shenanigans as it happens. Would you care to explain?
Well now, in order to empty your meter, you have to unlock the padlock and remove the cover. But when I close the cover again, I'll stick a little beeswax seal on it, you see.
A seal? Like the sort of thing you put on an envelope, you mean?
Something like that, yes. Basically, you can't remove the cover again without breaking the seal.
Now, in the case of Mr. Shamspear's meter, there were no coins inside at all, as I said.
But the seal hadn't been broken either.
So that would mean Mr. Shamspear somehow managed to steal coins from inside the meter without opening it. It would seem so, but that would be impossible.
Somehow, he's using all the flaming gas he wants without paying a penny. If that's not thieving, what is?
Hold it!
Hold it! How do you know that he's been using gas, though?
Well now, since I started investigating this bloke, I've been to his room more than a few times. And on every single occasion, his lamps have been blazing and his stove pounding. It's the middle of winter, and he still turns to me, sweat dripping down his cheeks, and says,
Get thee to a nunnery.
Hamlet indeed. Oh, I can wring the bloke's neck. I got hot under the collar, but still. I get all hot under the collar, but still. Every time I open up that flaming meter, it's empty. He's robbing me of my salary too. What's wrong with the world? Where's the justice?
But how can Mr. Shamspear possibly be stealing the money? I don't understand. The simple explanation is right before your eyes. What? A toast to you eventually realizing that the gasman could be an accomplice.
What? Good Lord, and eminently plausible indeed.
One minute.
Drone bee meter man.
Oh, well, what do you have to say for yourself?
Oh, please, Lady Quimby, I'm a faithful worker. And besides, if the money us gasmen collect don't tally with how much gas has been used, you dock a pay by the same amount.
So you'd be stealing money only to have the same amount taken from your wages. Clearly that makes no sense. Perhaps it's a case of losing the battle to win the war.
No, 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 I'm not going to stir up that hornet's nest. Oh, if I went stealing from the company, I'd be finished.
It would seem there is no evidence to support the claims of thievery made against the victim. Because Mr. William Shamspeare is innocent. Pray, forgive me if that shatters some illusion my learned Nipponese friend was clearly under. Ugh. That's the end, right? Okay, well I know the answer. Dun, 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 dun. Objection.
Objection!
Lady Altamont, I'm afraid to say that this meter clearly does show signs of having been tampered with.
What?
Get away! I've been over and over that thing. I'm telling ya, there's nothing wrong with it.
In that case, what do you have to say about the small hole that's been made at the base of the coin box?
Oh, what?
You're right. Oh, you're quite right. There is a little hole there. Meters aren't supposed to have that. None of the others do.
In other words, we can assume that Mr. Shamspeare secretly opened up this hole himself.
Yes, I wouldn't be at all surprised. But why?
Yeah, why? I mean, it's tiny. You couldn't fit a farthing through that.
Lady Altamont, I wonder if you could give the court some more details about your meter design.
What sort of details?
Well, what I'd specifically like to know is... I want to know both, but... How does the meter tell the difference between different coins?
What do you mean? Oh, what do you mean?
Well, for example, if someone were to put a 1-penny coin, that wouldn't work, presumably, would it?
No, of course not.
So, well, how does the meter know that the coin it's been fed is a threepenny bit? A threepenny bit?
Oh, I see what you're getting at now. The meter tells coins apart by their shape and size, which includes their thickness. A threepenny bit is about 3/4 of an inch in diameter, you see. Other coins just won't fit.
Ah, I see. It's clearly been very well thought out.
The witness will amend her formal testimony with that information in case it is pertinent.
Oh, as you wish, my lord.
Hold it!
But conversely then, it would seem that anything matching a 3-pence coin exactly in terms of diameter and thickness could equally well be used. Would that be true?
Well, yes, in a way. The weight comes into a certain extent as well. Oh, the weight comes into a certain extent as well.
We've thought of that though. Anyway, if I find any fake coins inside the coin box when I empty the meter, the contract says the customer has to pay 100 times the amount they diddled as a fine. We live for moments like that, us gasmen do. Live for them. It would seem the gas company has thought of everything. Whoa, hooray, hurrah for gas, hurrah for cash. House of on all the way.
That's quite enough of that. Reminds me, how big are threepenny bits? Threepenny bits?
About 3/4 of an inch across.
What do you think, Mr. Naruto? This is 2 centimeters measurement significant. Is this 2 centimeters measurement significant? Or perhaps there's some other aspect of the meter's construction that we should be focusing on? Yes, you may be right. Perhaps I should try a different track here. Like asking about whether the meter can be dismantled, for example. How can the meter be dismantled?
Oh, dismantled? Dismantled?
Yes, given that there are no signs of it being forced, I'm wondering if perhaps rather than being broken open, it might have been taken apart.
Well, yes, that does make some sense.
We present the soap bar to the thing, right? He's been using the soap coins as coins. And then, to stop them being left in there, he then takes the candle and melts it, and that's why there's a big puddle on his floor. Because if we look at his photo... you can clearly see the big stain there. That's from soap.
The padlocks are made by a first-class locksmith from the finest quality steel. And the meter box itself is made from plate steel as well, welded shut to ensure it can't be opened again. I can assure you, it's quite impossible to dismantle it.
Whoa, yeah, nothing leaks from the an meter. No coins, no gas, no nothing.
I see.
The witness will amend her formal testimony with that information in case it is pertinent.
As you wish, my lord.
It's literally held together with screws. Like, literally. I still think that he puts in the coins, though. Because 2 centimeters, right? Oh, look at this bar of soap. There's a circular depression on this side, about 2 centimeters across. 2 centimeters across. 2 centimeters across. 2 centimeters across? Or 3/4 of an inch. Ah, do you think? We did find this soap at the scene, didn't we? Yes, there were 2 bars and that little ledge just outside the window. So we took this one. But I'm sure that when we first found it, there was some sort of reddish medallion in the middle there. I remember it clearly. Yes, but there's no sign of it now. Where could it have gone? I'm definitely gonna have to go to bed soon.
Hold it!
Pull it. Has anyone ever tried?
Oh yeah, they've tried, but they've all given up before long.
After all, if they usually broke the meter, the company would be able to take legal action.
Yes, that makes sense. What do you think of Mr. Naruto? Is its welded steel construction significant? Or perhaps there's some other aspect of the meter's construction that we should be focusing on? Yes, you may be right. Perhaps I should try a different tack here. Like asking about how the meter differentiates coins, for example. And this will all be the same dialogue. Objection.
Objection.
Let me just confirm something here. If the diameter and thickness were to be correct, the meter would accept any object as if it were a threepenny bit. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Well, by something of a coincidence, while we were investigating Mr. Shamspeare's room, we found a particular item that matches the dimensions perfectly.
Something the same size as the threepenny bit. Threepenny bit? What was it?
The item in question is this.
Well, have you been inhaling gas? That's a bar of soap.
It certainly looks nothing like threepenny bit, I must say.
It looks like I'm going to have to point out exactly what I mean here. What's so important about the soap is this part here. It doesn't look as though this soap has been used much, does it? If at all.
No, I agree. I'd say it's never been used. And yet, it doesn't quite look new either. It's lost its color slightly, as soap does with it when it ages.
I wonder why Mr. Shamspeare has apparently had it for so long, but not used it then. He reuses the stuff. Oh my god. Pretty clever, actually. So he puts it in, then he uses a candle to melt the stuff, and he puts the soap beneath to catch the melting stuff, and then he puts it on the windowsill to cool again and solidify. That's very clever. Talk about a great sham. That could point to the answer here.
Got it!
Got it! You have to turn over the soap to see what I mean.
Ah, are you referring to that round depression in the middle of the soap there?
That's right, a depression that's approximately 3/4 of an inch in diameter. Or in other words, almost exactly the same size as the threepenny bit.
Get away! Does anyone present have in their possession a threepenny bit? Quickly now, hand over your coins, ladies and gentlemen.
It sounds rather like a highway robbery, doesn't it?
Thanks to a kind member of the public in the gallery, I have here a threepenny bit. Now, to see if it fits. Now, to see if it fits. My word, it couldn't be more snug.
Yes, as I suspected. This, without a doubt, is a vital clue to explain how the Altamont Gas Company is being defrauded.
Well, I don't believe it.
So, your assertion amounts to what? That some inferior bar of soap has a tentative connection to the theft of gas? Yes. The depression in the soap was clearly made by a threepenny bit.
I must concur, at least, that pushing a coin with some force into a poor quality bar of soap such as this is a remarkably simple way of replicating the coin's shape. And then you can use, well, some kind of melted wax or something to pour into the mould. And you can make fake coins in no time.
This brings all the pieces of the puzzle together. It's the method that Mr. Shamspeare has been using to steal the gas. That's the missing link. And now, if I follow the chain of thought, it's going to bring me to a new explanation for what's happened that nobody's considered yet. How does this link to him being poisoned?
But this is all nonsense. If the man had been making fake coins, my worker here would have found them when he emptied the meter.
Quite true, Lady Outlaw. In the absence of them, some black magic that could make them disappear.
I see. That's what we're dealing with, is it? There is one form of black magic that could cause the fake coins to disappear into thin air. Yes. Exactly. And the meter here gives it away.
What on earth?
There are remnants of the magical method used, visible on the gas meter taken from the victim's room.
Where on the meter can the remnants of the method used to make the fake coins disappear be seen?
It sounds like the gas man didn't find a single coin inside this meter.
But no one could survive at land and winter without gas lamps, and certainly not without a gas stove.
How does it go? Out, brief candle, or something like that?
Perhaps it's the same kind of spell that Mr. Shamspear has been using to make the coins come out.
Magic or not, there must be some trace of the method he used on this meter somewhere. We need to look over it very, very carefully. Dun 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 dun. There's this little hole in the bottom of the meter here, isn't there? Oh, I missed dialogue last time, that was. And it looks as though it was made by somebody who didn't really have the right tools.
It does actually go all the way through to the inside, though it's hard to see unless you look closely. In fact, it goes right into the part of the meter where the money ends up.
I suppose it's nothing then.
Oh?
Well, you couldn't possibly extract a coin through such a small hole, could you?
No, I suppose not.
But then the question remains, why would somebody go through the effort of making a hole here? This is quite a tough padlock.
What are you doing, Mr. Naruhodo?
Oh, I was just seeing if it was possible to force it open.
If you break it, I'm afraid you'll be forced to pay a fine.
Oh no! Phew, that was close then. Perhaps tell me a little sooner next time. Got it!
Got it!
Got it! Got it! We found this bar of soap at the scene of the crime, just outside the victim's window.
Outside?
Yes, outside, where you yourself, Mr. Meterman, were loitering in the freezing winter air. That's where we found this soap.
Oh, I'll get it. I'll get it.
That's right. The answer, of course, is ice. Ice? Water? Okay.
Did you say iced?
Mr. Shamspear has been leaving soaps like this outside his window each evening, filled with water. Okay, makes sense now. After a night outside in the bitter cold, the water is completely frozen solid for the next morning. Then he takes his fake coins of ice and feeds them into the gas meter, giving him light and warmth in spades, or shovels. As his room becomes very comfortably warm, the ice now inside the meter's coin box melts. turning back into water and draining harmlessly away through the small hole made in the underside of the meter. That is how, without leaving any evidence of his wrongdoing, this man has been stealing Altamont gas. There is actually evidence of his wrongdoing, and it's on the floor right here, this massive puddle on the...
Just like that. So simply. Is he trying to make us look like idiots? He's been fooling us all with some bars of soap and some water.
That's right, madam.
I don't believe it. It can't be true. Do you have any idea how much money we spent to develop that new meter? And now you have the audacity to suggest that a bit of soap and some water can render it totally useless.
I'm fairly sure I didn't design it.
Evidence? Oh, evidence? I want evidence. If you're going to stand there and tell me our meters are rubbish, I want to see proof. She's very good with enforcing accountability, isn't she?
Very well, Lady Altamont. If you'd like evidence, I'll provide it.
What? Mr. Naruhodo, are you saying you do actually have evidence to support this theory?
I did notice a trace of something that bothered me a little at the time. I have a feeling that this theory we've come up with now could explain it. The piece of evidence that substantiates the theory about how Mr. Shamspeare has been stealing gas is...
Take that!
Take that! This is a photograph of the scene at the point when the victim was discovered, taken by Inspector Gregson. And it clearly shows the remnants of the crime carried out by Mr. Shamspeare. What remnants? Fine, I'll point it out on the photograph, you foolish fools. Here you can see the gas meter on the wall in Mr. Shamspeare's room. Now, look closely at the floorboards directly underneath the meter. Okay, I just noticed something about this moment. In playtesting, I guarantee that there was originally the thing where you have to point at the watermark, right? But because people in playtesting didn't notice it, and they just guessed evidence and they got it, and they're like, what in the photograph is weird. And looking at it, they just thought that the stain was just part of the artistry of it, not an actual piece of evidence. You know, they didn't like think much of it. Like, it just didn't pass their minds, and Takumi and the team are just sort of like, yeah, let's just have you present the photo. That's how it feels anyway. Now look closely under the meter.
What is that? Some kind of grubby stain?
Almost certainly, it's a water stain resulting from the liquid that drained out the hole made in the meter.
Ah.
If one coin gives around 2 hours of gas usage, and the occupant was heating his room in all waking hours, you can imagine he would have used around 10 of his fake coins each day. The melting ice inside the meter's coin box would have been dripping out almost constantly, leaving a stain on the floor.
This is awful.
And there's further evidence too. Mr. Shamspeare is slumped over his table, apparently having consumed strychnine. Apparently having consumed strychnine. With a fork in his hand and a bar of soap. Why did he break the bar of soap? Was he trying to get rid of the evidence? And right there next to him is a bar of soap broken in half. Was there a stain on the table? There was, wasn't there? Remember when we looked at the table, I think I said to myself, there's a bit of tea that's been spilled. No, that's a melted coin. Oh, you're right. Oh, you're right.
It would appear to me then, Counsel, that the man was eating the soap, was he?
Pardon me for disagreeing with your lordship, but certainly not. He didn't beat around the bush there, did he? In truth, Mr. Shamspear was found with a fork in his hand.
A meal of soap is sounding increasingly... meal of soap is sounding increasingly likely, Lord Van Zykes. You mean to say he was using that fork to...
Yes. To extract a frozen coin from the bar of soap. Ah. But the bar broke in half. So perhaps it didn't go very well.
Good gracious.
That seems a bit odd. Why did the bar break in half? Bye-bye. It's float, it's just sitting there. Lord Van Zykes! I was throwing my hand up in despair, and happened to catch my hallowed bottle on the way. Pray, forgive my maladroit mistake.
What is the meaning of this, Counsel?
Allow me to pose my learned friend a question. What exactly did you establish with your most recent cross-examination? Well, that Mr. William Shamspear is a liar and a thief. In other words, that his testimony is unreliable. That's it. That's exactly it. Very well. Let us assume the man is a liar. Now, allow me to pose another question. What possible difference does that make? Well, we know that suicide can be discounted. Scotland Yard's investigation revealed no sign of another vessel that contained poison. And on the night in question, there were no visitors to the room except the accused. This young gasman's testimony, which we have no reason to doubt, has confirmed that. The gasman himself doesn't have a motive, right? Furthermore, the only possible way the poison could have entered the victim's body is via the tea. The court has seen no evidence whatsoever that suggests otherwise. Even if William Shamspear is the liar you claim him to be, these facts have been objectively established. There's no escaping it. There's no escaping it. There we go. That's more dramatic. There's no escaping it. Therefore, in light of these facts, the prosecution calls for immediate adjudication. You... What?
Order, order. Well, Counsel, how does the defence respond?
Mr. Naruhodo? What was the point of that last cross-examination? Did it actually get us anywhere? Or did it make no difference at all, like Lord Van Zykes is saying? It has to have made a difference. But what difference? Maybe he was discovered doing it by the gasman. But I still don't think that's enough of a motive for the gasman to poison him. No, this isn't over. The defense will not rest.
What? But, Counsel, you've successfully explained everything. You've identified and substantiated the unscrupulous method employed by Mr. Shamspeare to consume gas. What more is there to discuss?
Lord Van Zykes just highlighted 3 facts in order to make his point. But contrary to what he would have the court believe, not all of them have been objectively established at all.
What are you trying to say? I don't know. At the moment Van Zykes gets angry, I just can't help but laugh. I don't know why. What are you trying to say, my Nipponese friend?
At least one of those so-called facts is an assumption made due to a lack of evidence.
I love it so much. This pose is the best. Just like...
The situation has changed now following the cross-examination of the latest witnesses to take the stand.
Don't be absurd! What is this nonsense?
Yes, when you bring everything we've learned so far together and consider it as a whole, it's clear. There's a question that we now need to reconsider, namely. I need to read the text again. I need to read the 3 facts. We know that suicide can be discounted. Scotland Yard's investigation revealed no sign of another vessel that contained poison. True. He wouldn't have drank the water from the ice, right? And the poison can't go through skin. On the night in question, there were no visitors to the room except the accused. The young gasman's testimony, which we have no reason to doubt, has confirmed that. Furthermore, the only possible way the poison could have entered the victim's body was via the tea. The court has seen no evidence whatsoever that suggests otherwise. So, the 3 statements Van Zykes has made. Suicide can be discounted. There were no visitors. The poison entered via the tea. Our answers. Was there another visitor? That takes problem with statement 2. Was the poison in the tea? That takes problem with statement 3. Was someone else responsible? I guess that's trying to highlight the suicide option, but it feels like it's the weakest answer. Okay, now I'm going to read the evidence again. Make sure that the poison can't be absorbed through the skin after ingestion. It hasn't been proven in any way that the poison was in the tea. It is an assumption, which is what Naruhodo said. Therefore, I would like to ask Lord Van Zykes, was the poison in the tea? We've all been led to believe that the strychnine poison that afflicted Mr. Shamspeare was in the tea brought to him by Mr. Natsume. But that's conjecture at best.
Objection!
Objection! The victim has testified that nothing else passed his lips that night. There is no other possibility. And since there was no trace of the tea left at the scene, it couldn't be tested for traces of the poison.
Objection!
Objection! As I said, the situation has changed. Because in fact, some of Mr. Natsume's tea was left at the scene. And a particular piece of evidence proves it.
Objection!
Objection. A ludicrous claim. Scotland Yard detectives investigated the scene exhaustively. What evidence are you suggesting they missed?
The defence has made a bold claim indeed. Very well, counsel. Present your proof. What evidence from the scene of the crime can tell us about the nature of the defendant's tea?
The teacups? I mean, it's the only thing, right? Unless it's in the photo, which it isn't. Take that!
Take that!
Take that! Take that from up north, like.
What exactly is this piece of evidence supposed to reveal about Mr. Natsume's tea, counsel?
Well, I suspect it may, possibly, be related to the tea in some small way, if we dig deep enough. I did present the tea, right? Yeah. But it's wrong. Then you will be digging for a very long time indeed, my learned friend. Oh, even at the bottom of the deepest chasm. You will find no sense in that absurd assertion. Ugh. Okay. Sometimes I wish I could disappear down a deep chasm and to escape this, his deep sarcasm.
Then I advise you to think more deeply before you answer again this time. What evidence from the scene of the crime can tell us about the nature of the defendant's tea?
The nature of the defendant's tea? Dun, 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 dun. That hasn't. Okay. Process of elimination. Obviously not. A drop of tea remains. Now I heard it said. Because in fact, some of Mr. Natsume's tea was left at the scene, and a particular piece of evidence proves it. Do I need to examine these again by any chance? No. Did he spill the tea? Can't be to do with that puddle, right? I don't see that. I mean, yeah, it's liquid and it's liquid, right? The water that he used was liquid, the tea was liquid. But that has nothing to do with the poison and nothing to do with the nature of the defendant's tea, and it doesn't show that there's any tea at the crime scene. The soap again, does not show that there was any tea at the crime scene. No trace of tea left at the scene. Doesn't appear in this photo. Okay, process of elimination. No, no, no. No, certainly not. We've just used it, it doesn't make sense. This, I literally cannot fathom how it's related. This we tried, even though it's like the most logical. And I've tried examining it again. From every angle. Personally, I think if you tried hard enough, you could totally examine the rim of his mug, but I guess the science hasn't developed to that point yet. This is related. This is related. This is not related, right? This has nothing to do with the defendant's tea. So, it's either this or this. What evidence from the scene of the crime, the judge says. The victim's medical report is not from the scene of the crime. This is technically from the scene of the crime.
Take that!
The nature of the defendant's tea, I just don't see it. New dialogue. There's a circular depression on this side, about 2 centimeters across. Or 3/4 of an inch. Ah, do you think? We did find this soap at the scene, didn't we? Yes, there were 2 bars on the little ledge just outside the window. So we took this one. But I'm sure that when we first found it, there was some sort of reddish medallion. The tea! We just have to figure out where the reddish medallion went. Where could it have gone? Where could it have gone? Hang on. Let's answer the question. Where could it have gone? We've tried this, The reddish medallion. Thank you, game, for slowing down that text. That has just saved me. It makes so much sense. Like, I had it mixed up because I thought that the reddish medallion would be the coins. But then we revealed that it was water. But I didn't go then back and think about the reddish medallion. And I also didn't think about the reddish medallion because in what Lord Van Dyke's is saying, there was nothing there that made me think about the soap again or the medallion or anything like that. But the answer is this, I think. Make sure that somehow the tea hasn't ended up on my band. That would be very silly, but very funny.
Take that!
Take that!
Good gracious. The soap again? The same bar the victim used to fashion his coins of ice?
Yes, that's right, my lord. It's just come back to me. Something about when we first found this bar of soap at the scene yesterday. It's more bars of soap. Soap? What bars of soap doing lined up on a ledge outside the window?
Why did he pour soap into tea into it? Why not use water, like he always has? Because it surely wasn't an accident. I'm quite certain that when we originally stumbled upon the bars of soap, there was actually a frozen coin in each bar. So you discovered the gas thief's coin factory. Fascinating. In a way, yes, but there's more. The coins we found in the soap at the time weren't normal ice.
There was something strange about them, you mean?
Exactly, something very obviously strange. They were red. The ice was red.
No, you mean...
That's right, it's obvious to me now. The fake coins in the soap were made from frozen tea.
Gah!
Oh, it wasn't frozen ice at all. Ooh, makes sense actually, because the moment that he said frozen ice, I was like, wait, frozen ice? Not like the red coins that we saw? And then I thought, oh, he melted the red coins, but no, if they were frozen tea... I would remind the court of a statement made by Mr. Natsume earlier in this trial. That evening, yes, I did take some freshly brewed tea with me when I visited Mr. Shamspeare's room as a gift. The public water pump outside always freezes at night, so I brought bottled water especially to make it. Mr. Shamspeare didn't have bottled water, so he had to use the tea to make his coins. And this is the result. Never will I touch tea again. Never.
Ah, yes, I believe there had been a snowfall that day. It was particularly cold. Sadly, on such occasions, the poorly constructed water mains in the East End are prone to freezing.
So on the night in question, Mr. Shamspeare, having no running water to use, was forced to use the tea brought by Mr. Natsume was forced to use the tea brought by Mr. Natsume in order to make his fake coins. So true. True.
My word!
There were 2 bars of soap on the window ledge when my judicial assistant and I investigated the scene. That's right, and we only borrowed one of them. Which means that even as we speak, some of the defendant's tea is still present at the scene of the crime. Frozen solid in a bar of soap outside Mr. Shamspeare's window.
Extraordinary!
Earlier today, Inspector Gregson informed the court that if even one drop of the tea remained, Scotland Yard would be able to analyse it for poison. As such, we are now in a position to prove or disprove what has until now been mere conjecture. By finding out for sure whether or not Mr. Natsume's tea actually contains strychnine at all.
Ah! You smoke Nipponese!
My lord, we cannot do the defendant the injustice of passing judgment now. The police should be dispatched to recover the remaining bar of soap from the scene at once, and the defence requests a thorough analysis of the frozen tea embedded in it, to determine whether or not it contains any poison. That is the most absurd line of logic, and it's so good. I love it.
Bailiff, bailiff, instruct the police to attend the scene at once.
Yes, my lord, understood.
It would seem we have no choice but to suspend the proceedings for the time being. I trust you have no objection, Lord Van Zykes.
None, my lord.
Scotland Yard will recover the tea from the scene and carry out the requisite tests immediately. The trial will resume at the same hour tomorrow. The prosecution and defense may conduct further investigations as appropriate in the interim.
Yes, my lord. Well, we managed to scrape through there somehow.
Thank you, counsels. Court is adjourned until tomorrow.
That's a good spot to end. Time for bed for me. Save. Naruhodo's legal consultancy, and that is where we end it. This is the first trial that's lasted more than a day in this series as well. But yeah, let's do that. In fact, you know what? Before I go, okay, I only have one left for that. Okay, they're both in episode 3. Episode 3. Having examined Miss Green's bottle before it falls from the table. Okay. So we got 2 here. Miss Green's bottle and Mr. Sholmes' question. Right, I'm done.